Now, I'm going to show you Providend's favorite picture. We always show that to clients and we use it, to remind them when markets are crazy like last year. This is the S&P 500, the annualized return over the past almost 90 over years, from 1926 all the way till today. I know you cannot see the numbers, so I'm going to zoom right in. Now, assuming that you are invested, so this is zoom into the left-hand side of that matrix. Assuming that you are investing at the beginning of 1928, 1 year later at the end of 1928, your return for that year would have been 43.6%. Fantastic return during that year. But if you stayed invested with the S&P 500, well, 2 years later, at the end of the second year, your return would now be only 14.7% annualized per year. It's a per year return for the 2 years you have invested. Cumulatively, your money would have grown 31.6%, but you realize that the markets have fallen because year one was 43.6. Year two, after 2 years, cumulatively, it has dropped to 31.6. And some of us remember those were the Great Depression years and the markets are falling, right? And if you stay invested further and 4 years later, your money, you would have lost negative 13.5% per year. Okay, you would have lost 44% of your capital. Depression year. Now, if I move towards the right, nearer to us today, many of us here will remember the GFC, the global financial crisis of 2008. If you started investing January of 2008, at the end of 2008, well, S&P 500, you would have been down 37%. But if you stayed invested, 2 years later, at the end of 2 years, your return would have been 10.7% negative per year. And if you stayed invested, you see the market's recovering. It is now negative 2.9% per year. And by the 5th year, you would have recovered all your losses and it is now 1.7% per year. And you will see the rest of the years from year 6 onwards, well, it has gone back to normal. So red and pink means negative annualized returns. Green means positive annualized return. And if we take a step back right now and zoom out, this is how it looks. You can make 3 observations. Firstly, and I'm sure all of you know, they are mostly green. And isn't it great that they are mostly green? I hope that gives you a lot of comfort that most of the time, it's actually okay. First observation. The second observation is that, well, are there pink and red years? There are, but where are they? They are all at the edge over here. Well, some here, some here, some here. And if I am able to draw a line, and you can see this imaginary line over here that is parallel to the edge, and this line touches the last pink box, which is here, anything before this line, depending on which direction you're looking from, but from my direction, I'll say before this line, it is possible to hit a box with a negative annualized return. But once you cross this line, there is never a box or a year with a negative annualized return. Now, it tells you this. I do not know how your investment journey will be like, but if you look at the world, 3 big crises, Great Depression, dot-com bubble, the GFC. In fact, there's one more somewhere around here, which is the Middle East crisis. I do not know how your investment journey will be like, whether when you start, it will be so bloody. I hope not. This is really an outlier, or it's going to be like the dot-com burst, or it's going to be like the GFC, or it's going to be like the 1990s, whereby if you started investing in 1990s, you probably will be thinking like, what risk are you talking about? I've never seen a year that is red. I do not know. All of us, our investment journey will be different, but it doesn't matter when you start, because even if you are hit with a very bad period, if you are able to stay invested, if you have time, and in this case, if I count the number of boxes before it hits the line, it's about 15 boxes, which is about 15 years. If you have time, the returns that you get, the annualized return will always be positive. Why is it like that? It is no magic. It is that the long-term returns of the stock market is driven primarily by the profits, the earnings of a company. What drives earnings? Well, it is demand from consumers that drives earning. And as long as there's demand and population growth, we will always get a positive annualized return. Now, this only works if you're invested in a market. It doesn't work if you're invested in 1 stock, 2 stocks, 10 stocks, because if a company goes bankrupt, that's the end. But let me just say that the Great Depression is an outlier. If I take away the Great Depression and then I can push the line up. You see the last time it touches the rate is over here. This is the GFC. Yep. And if I count the number of boxes before it hits this line, it's about 10 years. Now, we are not saying 10 years is the magic number. What we are saying is that there are enough evidence to show us that if you buy into the markets, you have time, you're not going to worry too much about the returns. And that is why in the retire well buckets, monies that you don't need more than 10 years, 15 years, more and more money is put into equities because of this evidence.